everyone, and welcome to the Sound Mind podcast, where we dive into the fascinating world of music psychology. I'm your host, Sophia, and as a music psychologist, I'll be guiding you through everything you've ever wondered about music. So, whether you're a music lover or just interested in the science of sound, you're in the right place. So, think about the last time that you felt just an overwhelming rush of excitement when your favorite artist dropped a new song, or the thrill of connecting with someone who shares your exact same taste in music. Maybe you found lifelong friends, attended a concert that felt magical, or just even created something inspired by a song or an artist that moved you and that you love. Well, music fandoms are more than just listening habits. They're communities, rituals, and deeply emotional experiences. So, in today's episode, we're going to be exploring the science behind music fandoms. I want to cover why we get obsessed with artists, the emotional bonds that we form through these parasocial relationships, the communities and friendships that fandoms create, but also touch a little bit on the darker side of obsession. But ultimately, why being a fan is such a profoundly human experience. By the end, you might find yourself reflecting on your own musical passions or obsessions and how they've shaped your life and connected you to other people. So let's get into it. Starting off with, why do we get so obsessed with music and the artists that we love? What is it about a song, a voice, or even just a fleeting image of our favorite musician that can make our hearts race, our minds light up, and sometimes even shape how we see ourselves? Is it simply enjoyment, or is there something deeper going on in our brains and our psychology? Well, I think to really understand this, we need to first dive into the science of obsession in general. So let's start off with dopamine. Dopamine is often called the brain's reward chemical, and it's released whenever we experience something pleasurable, whether that's eating chocolate, winning a game, falling in love, or just listening to a song that resonates with us on a profound level. So one neuroscientist, Valerie Selimpore, and her team at McGill University actually found that when people listen to music that gives them chills or an intense emotional pleasure of some kind, dopamine floods parts of the brain associated with reward and motivation. So essentially, your brain is treating that new song from your favorite artist like a small personal euphoria. It's like your own internal high. And it's not just the act of listening, actually, anticipation plays a role too. And this is something that I speak a lot about here on the Sound Mind. But studies have shown that dopamine is released both in the anticipation of and during a peak emotional moment in music. Now, that's why the build up to a chorus of a song that you love can feel almost unbearable. And then when it drops, it just hits you like a wave of joy. It's literally biology at work. Your brain is designed to seek out patterns, rewards, and emotional stimulation, and music gives all three of these in abundance. But fandom isn't only about chasing a high. So oxytocin, which is called the bonding hormone, is another key player here. Oxytocin strengthens trust, emotional connection, and social bonding, whether that's between friends, romantic partners, even parents and children. So when we sing along to music, attend concerts, or even just engage with other fans online, oxytocin can be released, making us feel emotionally connected, not just to the music itself, but to the artist and the larger community of fans. It's why so many fans describe their favorite artists as friends or even family, despite never having met them, and also the fans around them as well. Music taps into our need for social connection in a way that's biologically and psychologically real. In fact, studies on group singing and musical synchrony actually show that these shared musical experiences can increase feelings of trust and bonding between even strangers at a concert. And I think that's honestly such a beautiful thing about music. That experience of being at a concert and just being surrounded by thousands of people that love the same artist and songs as you do, it's unmatched. And then there's the aspect of identity. Music fandom isn't just a pastime, it's literally a form of self-expression. So psychologists who study social identity theory explain that the groups that we belong to, or even the artists that we support, they become an extension of our self-concept. So wearing band merch, going to concerts, creating or sharing fan art, or participating in online fan communities, it isn't just fun. It's literally a statement about our values, our tastes, and the person that we want the world to see. Music allows us to explore different facets of identity, and fandom often becomes a lens through which we understand ourselves. Think about the moments when you've carefully curated a playlist, posted about a new album, or even debated song lyrics online. That's more than fandom. It's literally storytelling. It's you saying, this is who I am, this is what resonates with me, this is my world. And the beauty of music is that it's universal, yet intensely personal. It provides a framework for both belonging and self-exploration, connecting the chemical highs of dopamine, the emotional bonding of oxytocin, and the reflective mirror of identity. So, if you put it simply, being a fan is not just about liking a song or an artist. It's all about pleasure, connection, and self-expression. Dopamine gives us the joy that keeps us coming back. Oxytocin creates bonds with the music, the artist, and fellow fans. And identity allows fandom to become a canvas for who we are, or who we hope to be. When these three forces come together, it's no wonder that fandoms can feel so intense, immersive, and sometimes completely irresistible. Honestly, I've always been a fangirl. I think it's in my DNA. Since I was a child, I've obsessed over boy bands, celebrities. My walls were honestly covered, literally fully covered in posters. And I followed bands up and down the country. One band that really shaped my life growing up was The Wanted. They're the boy band who sang Glad You Came. And gosh, they were literally my life. And I truly think they saved my life, honestly. I was such a fangirl. My parents took me up and down the country to see them. And even as an adult, I've seen them. I've met them as well several times. And I really do feel like I know them, which I know sounds crazy. But when they've been such a big part of your life for so long, it really does make sense. Now, as an adult, I'm a huge fangirl for The Weeknd. I always go with my best friend to see him whenever we can. And I actually just got tickets a few weeks ago. And I'm telling you, the Ticketmaster war is no joke. Okay? I've never been so stressed. It's an insane process. I absolutely hate how difficult it is nowadays to get concert tickets. And honestly, part of that issue is fandoms. They're crazy, but we got them. 2026 is going to be a good year. A lot of things lined up. But yeah, it's rough out there, and fandoms can make it really difficult to get your hands on tickets nowadays. But okay, now that we've explored the science of obsession, let's talk about something that takes fandom to this deeply personal and sometimes surprising level. I want to talk about parasocial relationships. Now, you may or may not have heard the term before, but the chances are that you've experienced one. A parasocial relationship is essentially a one-sided emotional bond with a public figure. So think about your favorite musician, actor, even online creator. You follow their life online, you know their habits, their quirks, even their sense of humor. And yet they literally have no idea that you exist. You feel a connection with them, but it's entirely one way. And yet your brain treats it in ways that are strikingly similar to a real friendship. So why do artists feel like friends? Well, it all starts with perceived intimacy. Now, lyrics, they can be deeply personal, resonating with your own experiences and emotions. And an interview or a social media post can give you a peek behind the curtain of an artist's life. And when artists address fans directly, maybe replying to comments or hosting live streams, posting personal stories, it can create this illusion of conversation. Your brain doesn't entirely distinguish between this mediated interaction and real social interaction. Essentially, you start anticipating their posts, their new releases, even the moods that they convey, and it can feel deeply comforting, like someone who truly understands you. Now, research, of course, supports this. Psychologists like Horton and Wohl, who actually first coined the term parasocial interaction in the 1950s, found that audiences often form emotional attachments to media figures in ways that are comparable to real-world relationships. And more recent studies have shown that parasocial bonds can buffer loneliness, reduce stress, and even improve mood. For instance, a fan listening to an intimate album during a difficult time might feel understood and supported, even though the artist, of course, has no idea that the fan exists. And in today's digital world, parasocial relationships are more immersive than ever. And I really do want to touch on this because I think it's really important. Social media allows fans to peek into the daily lives of artists in real time. TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube vlogs, they create a sense of ongoing presence. And technology is pushing this even further now. So AI and virtual avatars can simulate interactions with artists. I know that Meta, for example, they've experimented with AI-driven avatars that respond to fans in the style or persona of different public figures. And it's really scary. I've seen that pop up on Instagram and it's super strange. I don't know whether this is something that we should be encouraging. Some apps offer chatbot versions of artists that chat with fans, generating responses as if the artists themselves were replying. And suddenly, that one-sided bond can feel interactive. It's almost like a real conversation. But this raises fascinating, but honestly uncomfortable questions. How far is too far? Could these AI interactions dilute the authenticity of fandom, or do they offer a new way to deepen connection? Could fans start to prefer virtual companionship over real-world friendships, relying on an algorithm to simulate intimacy? Well, ethicists and psychologists are still really debating these questions, but the trend is super clear. Technology is totally reshaping the ways that we experience admiration, attachment, and connection. And parasocial relationships also highlight a profound truth about human psychology. We are wired to seek connection and emotional resonance, even when it comes from someone who doesn't and may never know us. These bonds can bring joy, comfort, and even a sense of identity. But like any relationship, they come with a need for awareness and balance. Too much reliance on a one-sided bond can leave real-life social needs unmet, but in moderation, these relationships can be a source of emotional richness, inspiration, and even resilience. But this really shows that fandom isn't just about the individual. One of the most powerful aspects of being a fan is the community that it creates. Fandoms are, in many ways, modern social tribes, spaces where people find belonging, friendship, and a sense of identity. They're places where shared passion really transforms into shared experience, and individuals can really come together around something that's larger than themselves. So, as I've said, at its core, fandom is about connection. Being part of a fandom can create a sense of safety, understanding, and acceptance. When you join a fan community, whether it's a local fan club, a Discord server, a TikTok thread, or even a Reddit discussion, You instantly have a group of people who understand your obsessions, your references, your jokes. And for many fans, these communities are more than entertainment. They're literally lifelines. They're places where people can be unapologetically themselves, express emotions that they might suppress elsewhere, and share in this collective joy or grief. And psychologists studying social identity theory point out that these groups give members a shared sense of us, helping them to define who they are, who they want to be, and, like I mentioned, where they fit in the world. There's also a fascinating biological component as well to collective fandom, especially at live events. So when fans gather at concerts, music festivals, or even virtual watch-alongs, something extraordinary happens. Studies on mirror neurons and neural synchrony suggest that when people move, sing, or dance together, their brains literally start to align. Essentially, the crowd begins to experience the music and each other as one. That surge of shared emotion, the thrill when the first note of a beloved song hits, the wave of cheering during a chorus, even collective tears at a ballad, is a kind of collective euphoria. And it's why concerts can feel almost ritualistic. Everyone in the room participates in an energy that's greater than everyone. So neuroscientist Giacomo Rizzolatti, who discovered mirror neurons, explained that seeing others' actions and emotions can trigger the same responses in our own brains, creating a sense of empathy and emotional resonance. So, in other words, fandom at scale doesn't just feel social, it physically aligns us with each other. And today, fandom communities aren't just limited to physical spaces. Social media platforms like TikTok, X, Discord, and Reddit have created these digital tribes where fans can interact across continents. They share theories, decode lyrics, create memes, participate in fan challenges, and even collaborate on fan art or music covers. And these online spaces allow people to belong 24/7, participating in a global conversation in real time. And while internet fandoms pre-internet relied on newsletters, fan clubs, and physical meetups, today social media amplifies fandom, turning these niche communities into worldwide movements overnight. A single viral TikTok, for example, can transform an obscure track into a global phenomenon, and fans feel intimately part of that trajectory. And one of the most powerful and sometimes overlooked aspects of fandom is how it can create real-life friendships and relationships. Shared music taste isn't just about having similar playlists, it's all about connection on a deep emotional level. When we discover someone who loves the same artist, the same obscure track, or even the same genre, it's like finding a mirror for our own experiences and emotions. That sense of someone gets me is really just the foundation for strong friendships and sometimes romantic relationships. Psychologists have found that shared interests are a key predictor of friendship formation. Music, because it's so tied to emotion and identity, can actually even be more powerful than other interests. A concert, a festival, or even just an online discussion can spark conversations that turn into long-term friendships. So fans often describe that sense of instant camaraderie that comes from discovering a shared favorite album or even just attending a live show together. You've got this implicit understanding that you've shared all of those same moments. You felt the same rush, the same chills, or, as we now know, the same heartbeat as a song evokes. And that shared emotional experience creates a foundation of trust and intimacy, even if you're strangers. But online spaces also amplify this effect. So these platforms really allow fans to meet people from all over the world who share niche music interests. You might connect over a fan theory, a remix. Whatever it might be, many people have formed lasting friendships and even romantic relationships through these communities. In some cases, couples bond over attending concerts together, creating these shared memories that actually, in turn, strengthen the relationship. For younger generations, discovering someone with the same taste in music can feel like stumbling into an instant kind of tribe where a group that comes together through identity, belonging, and emotional resonance all kind of intersects with each other. And it's not just about shared joy. Music can also deepen emotional intimacy. Experiencing a song that resonates with personal struggles or milestones and sharing that with someone else creates a sense of vulnerability and connection. When someone else reacts with understanding, excitement, or empathy, it strengthens the bond in ways that go beyond casual friendship. Music really is a social glue, connecting people emotionally and creating long-lasting relationships. So, whether it's a friendship that starts in a fan forum, a romantic connection sparked at a festival, or a lifelong bond formed over shared albums, music fandoms, they really just show us how deeply our social lives are intertwined with the music that we love. They remind us that connection isn't just about proximity, it's about shared experience, shared emotion, and shared identity. Now, one thing that I find really interesting is generational differences also shape the experience of fandom. Now, I know I have a broad range of listeners, so I'm really interested to hear your perspective on this. But millennials, they often grew up when fandom was more contained. So, with CDs, fan clubs, forums, waiting for magazines or VHS tapes to learn news about an artist. Discovering a new favorite was like finding a hidden treasure. But Gen Z, on the other hand, experiences fandom in this hyper-connected, highly visible way. Viral challenges, TikTok trends, and fandoms that span continents. It's kind of the norm. But for older generations, fandom was often more private or localized, experienced through radio, TV specials, or small social circles. Across generation, though, the core of fandom remains the belonging, the shared passion, and identity reinforcement. But the ways that people engage with it has evolved dramatically. But one thing I love is that fandom is also about creation, not just about consumption. Fans produce art, music covers, TikTok videos, memes, fan fiction, and even charity projects inspired by their favorite artists. And these creations, they're both personal and communal. They allow fans to engage actively with the material while contributing to the larger community. In this sense, fandoms are not just audiences. They're ecosystems of creativity, collaboration, and expression, where admiration really just fuels artistic output and shared identity. Fandom really is a modern form of ritual. It's just a space where emotion, identity, creativity, and social connection just converge all together. And when experienced fully, it can be so profoundly fulfilling, reminding us that being part of something bigger than ourselves is a deeply human need. Okay, so far we've explored the joy, connection, and creativity that fandoms bring. But I think, as with any intense human experience, there's also a dark side. A side that's often overlooked, but can have very real consequences for both the fans and artists that they admire. Fandoms, when taken to extremes, can create pressure, obsession, and even conflict. So I want to start off with obsession, actually. So for many fans, admiration begins as a source of joy, identity, and community. But when that admiration becomes all-consuming, it can manifest in unhealthy behaviors. Some fans may engage in stalking, attempting to track an artist's movements, personal life, or private social media accounts. Others may turn to online harassment, sending threatening or invasive messages to the artist, or even attacking other fans who don't, quote unquote, measure up to their loyalty. And within fandoms, these toxic rivalries can really erupt over trivial disagreements like differing interpretations of lyrics, album rankings, or allegiance to certain subgroups within the fandom. And social psychologists suggest that these behaviors often arise from an over-identification with the fandom. So when the line between personal identity and the fan group blurs, defending the artist or the community begins to feel like you're defending yourself. And the pressure isn't only on fans, it's very real for the artists themselves. Extreme fan expectations can become a form of constant social surveillance. Celebrities are expected to be perfect, talented, relatable, accessible, and consistently engaging, all while maintaining the mystique that draws fans in the first place. K-pop idols, for example, they're often under intense scrutiny. Their schedules are crazy. Their public behavior is monitored to the T, and their every post is dissected by millions. When fans react negatively, if an artist doesn't meet their expectations, it can lead to stress, anxiety, and burnout. And research on parasocial relationships has actually found that some artists internalize fan disappointment, feeling this personal responsibility for fans' emotions, which I think is such an invisible but heavy burden. There's also the subtle psychological line between passionate support and harmful intensity. Dedication can be positive, fueling creativity, self-expression, and that sense of belonging that we've mentioned. But when it crosses into the line of obsession, it can really have consequences similar to behavioral addictions. Obsessive fandom can dominate attention, distort priorities, and sometimes even interfere with school, work, or real-life relationships. For artists, it can mean a constant feeling of scrutiny and a lack of personal space. But for fans, it can mean neglecting responsibilities or social connections in the pursuit of fandom-related goals. Even fandom spaces, those spaces that are meant to provide community and support, they're not immune to these dark dynamics, of course. With social media comes a dark side anyway, and social media algorithms can amplify extreme voices, creating these kind of echo chambers where toxic behavior just spreads really quickly. Harassment campaigns, doxing, or cancel culture incidents often start from small disagreements and really escalate rapidly. In some fandoms, defending an artist really becomes almost like a moral duty, and disagreements with other fans are treated as betrayals. And paradoxically, the same psychological mechanisms that make fandoms rewarding, so the identity, emotional investment, and that need for belonging, can also make them sites of conflict and harm. And then there is the emotional toll on the artist-fan relationship itself. Extreme obsession can create unrealistic expectations. Fans may demand constant attention, personal interaction, or even moral perfection. And artists who fail to meet those expectations simply by being human may face backlash, criticism, or even exclusion from their own community. And psychologists who have studied this notion of celebrity culture actually note that this dynamic creates a kind of feedback loop. So the fan obsession fuels the pressure on artists, which can trigger fan disappointment, which in turn drives further obsession. So I would say overall, the dark side of fandom is ultimately a reminder that intensity without balance can be dangerous. Fandoms have this amazing power to elevate, inspire, and connect, but When admiration turns into compulsion or community into conflict, the same passion that brings joy can create stress, harm, or even emotional exhaustion. Recognizing these dynamics is essential. I think being a fan can be such a beautiful thing, but like any powerful emotional experience, it requires awareness and moderation. But after exploring the highs and the lows of fandom, I think it's time to finish off with the big question, which is, why do fandoms matter at all? Why do we invest so much emotion, time, and energy into artists, songs, and fan communities? And I really think this is a key thing that I wanted to finish on, because at the most basic level, fandoms reveal something profoundly human. It's our need for connection, identity, and storytelling as well. We as humans are social creatures. We crave belonging, understanding, and shared experience. And fandoms provide all of these in ways that are immediate, tangible, and deeply emotional. When we engage with music we love, join a fan community, or participate in a global conversation about our favorite artist, we're tapping into these fundamental psychological needs. Fandom is not just about entertainment. It's, like I said, it's a form of social glue, just like music. It connects us to other people, to culture, and that sense of something that's larger than us. Honestly, in many ways, music fandoms function as modern rituals, not so different from religious or mythological practices. I mean, think about it. Concerts and live performances are almost ceremonial experiences where this sense of collective joy, emotional release, and shared devotion happens in real time. Fans are learning lyrics as if they're like sacred texts. Rituals form around album releases, and social media allows us to participate in these communal celebrations. Anthropologists and music psychologists have noted that these ritualistic aspects of fandom serve the same purpose as traditional communal practices. They give structure, meaning, and emotional resonance to life. Music becomes a medium through which we process experiences, celebrate milestones, or cope with hardships. And fandom also plays a critical role in coping and emotional regulation. So, listening to music, connecting with other fans, or even just immersing ourselves in a fan community can provide comfort during loneliness, stress, or transition. Music can modulate mood, evoke nostalgia, and provide a sense of stability when times are uncertain. And for many, fandoms are these safe spaces where identity, emotion, and creativity come together to offer both solace and empowerment. And then I just want to reinforce this aspect of identity. Being a fan just allows us to express ourselves and explore different facets of who we are, but also who we aspire to be. There's fashion choices and online posts, fan art, and memes. Fandom really offers a framework for self-expression. I think we as fans, we adopt elements of our favorite artists' personas, values, and aesthetics, shaping how we present ourselves to the world. And in this sense, fandom is not passive at all. It's an active, creative process of constructing and communicating identity. So the takeaway really is simple. Being a fan is part of being human. It really just taps into our desire for connection, creativity, meaning, and belonging. But as we've explored throughout this episode, balance really does matter. Fandoms can inspire joy, creativity, and community, but obsession, toxicity, or unhealthy attachment can really overshadow those benefits. And I think recognizing the line between passion and compulsion allows us to engage with fandom in ways that are fulfilling, safe, and sustainable. But ultimately, fandoms matter because they reveal the ways that we connect, cope and celebrate our collective humanity. They remind us that we're these social beings who crave stories, shared experiences, and emotional resonance, and that music, in all of its glory, is one of the most beautiful ways to fulfill those needs. So, here's a thought to leave you with. What fandoms have shaped who you are? Think about the artists, bands, or even genres that have really influenced your identity, your tastes, or how you see the world. And also consider, how do these fandoms connect you to others? Maybe it's a friend that you bonded with over a shared love of an album, a community online that you just feel accepted into, or even a memory of a concert that brought you closer to someone special. I think whether you're a casual listener, a devoted fan, or somewhere in between, take a moment just to appreciate the ways that your fandoms have shaped you and the ways that they continue to bring people together. I would love to hear what fandoms you're all a part of, so do get in touch on Instagram or on Threads at the Soundmind Talks. I think this is going to be a really interesting discussion. I know that things can get pretty passionate, so I'm really excited to hear about your experiences. But that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me today on Sound Mind. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate or review on wherever you're listening and share it with someone who loves music just as much as you do. Or maybe they have an obsession that you want to address. Don't forget to follow us and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. But until next time, keep listening, keep reflecting, and I'll see you on the Sound Mind.